Discover the miraculous transforming blessings revealed in the sacred journey of 12 divine tribes. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the tribes of Israel, descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, encamped in the parched wilderness of Sinai. They were laden with the rich promise of the land flowing with milk and honey, yet the emptiness of the desert orchestrated a symphony of doubt among them. Each tribe, unique in their calling but united in purpose, longed for the fulfillment of God's covenant. As the sun dipped behind the rugged peaks of Horeb, an unsettling silence gripped the camp. Caleb, son of Jephunneh, a leader of the tribe of Judah, stood amidst the leaders of his tribe, each face illuminated by flickering torches yet shadowed by fear. The scouts had returned from the land of Canaan with chilling tales of giants and fortified cities that threatened their very spirits. The hearts of the many trembled as they listened to these reports, but Caleb felt the stirring of courage within him, born of faith. "We are not as the grasshoppers they claim to be," Caleb exclaimed, lifting his voice above the rising tide of despair. His words rang with conviction, echoing the promises of Yahweh. Joshua, son of Nun, stood steadfast at his side, echoing the same unwavering spirit. "If the Lord delights in us, he will bring us into this land," Caleb continued, his resolve a beacon in the gathering gloom. Fear gripped the hearts of his kin, they pleaded for signs and cries for intervention ascended like incense, while others shrank back into the shadows of doubt. The assembly stretched thin, as a moral reckoning absorbed them. The decision loomed, to trust in the God who had sustained them through each ordeal or to retreat into the shackles of despair. With each moment that passed, the air thickened with uncertainty, and Caleb sensed that the stakes were beyond mere conquest. It was about faith itself. Then, like thunder on the wind, God's voice broke through the clamor. His decree resonated, echoing through the hearts of his people. A judgment of 40 years of wilderness wandering awaited them for their disbelief. Yet even as they stared into the abyss of despair, memories stirred of his miraculous provision, the manna that fell like dew each morning, the water that gushed forth from the solid rock. These acts of divine grace whispered courage in the darkness, knitting their hearts together in remembrance of his unwavering mercy. As the night deepened, a blanket of stars stretched wide above the camp. Caleb knelt in earnest prayer, beseeching Yahweh for the strength to lead his people toward faith. The moon's radiant glow cast soft light upon anxious faces, and hope flickered in the eyes of those willing to remember the deeds of their God. "Will we heed the call?" he implored silently, the weight of their collective destiny pressing down his shoulders. "Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed at how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As dawn began to chase away the shadows, Caleb gathered his thoughts, fortified with the promise that lay ahead. The winds of the desert whispered warnings of trials yet to come, instilling a resolve that gripped his spirit. Would the tribes turn in faith to reclaim the promise of the land that waited, or would they remain shackled to the fears that had risen among them? The journey was just beginning, and Caleb's heart beat in rhythm with the pulse of their collective destiny, an echo of glory awaiting beyond the horizon. As the first light of dawn kissed the land, the Israelites began to stir from their sleep. The flickering embers of the night fires cast long shadows, reminiscent of the giants that loomed large in their thoughts. Caleb rose early, steeling his heart against the doubts that plagued the assembly. He understood the magnitude of their choice before them, a choice that could forever alter the course of their journey and the destiny of their descendants. "Gather round, all you tribes," Caleb called out, his voice cutting through the muted whispers of the camp. Slowly, the heads of the 12 tribes emerged from the flaps of their tents, faces drawn and weary from a night filled with troubled dreams. They encircled him, seeking solace in shared strength. He was determined to remind them of who they were, the chosen ones, the descendants of a promise made to Abraham. "Remember, my brethren, the covenant of the Lord," Caleb began, invoking the memory of their forefathers. "He led us out of Egypt with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. He is the God who parted the sea, who has given us bread from heaven and water from the rock. He is faithful. At the mention of the miraculous deeds of Yahweh, a murmur of recognition traveled through the throng. Joshua, the faithful companion of Caleb, stepped forward, his eyes ablaze with conviction. Fear not. The land of Canaan is indeed a land flowing with milk and honey. We will go up and take possession of it, for the Lord is with us. Yet, as their hearts began to swell with hope, the remnants of doubt occasionally reared up insidious and fearsome. But what of the giants? One leader voiced, and the fortified cities? Are we mere children that we should face such armies? Caleb's heart sank, for he understood that despite his love for his people, their fears were like chains binding them to the desert wasteland. We must remember the charge that was placed upon us. We are not alone, our God goes before us as a consuming fire. He will destroy our enemies. He paused, drawing breath, the weight of his words heavy yet full of divine purpose. Let us rise, and let our faith be our armor. As murmurs turned to quiet resolve, Caleb felt the spirit of unity forming anew. He raised his hands toward the heavens, inviting them to join him in seeking divine guidance. Let us pray together. Let us implore Yahweh for clarity and courage. Let us echo the cries of our ancestors who sought the face of God. The people nodded, hearts turning upward, their spirits weaving a tapestry of faith amidst uncertainty. They knelt together upon the hot sands, voices rising in unison, a chorus imploring the Lord's favor and direction. The heavens were silent at first, as though holding its breath in the sphere of humanity's desperate plea. Then breathless moments slipped by, and a thick stillness settled over the camp. Suddenly, the ground beneath them vibrated gently, a tangible reminder that the Lord's presence was near. A cloud appeared upon the horizon, majestic and radiant, as if hinting at the glory to come. In the distance, Caleb smiled, sensing that God's hand was moving amidst their gathering. There lies our promise, he proclaimed, pointing with unwavering faith toward the land beyond. Yet the path forward requires courage and unified hearts to embrace the call of the Almighty. As the people gazed across the wilderness, a new understanding dawned within them. In the silence that followed, the question hung heavily in the air: would they trust in the providence of their God? Or would fear lead them into a wandering without end? Thus, a choice then lay before them, one that could echo across generations, determining not just their fate, but the fulfillment of God's grand design. For as the sun lifted higher, it illuminated the vast unknown, and in that light, God's sovereign plan began to unfurl. What would the tribes decide in the face of such divine promise? Would they embrace their identity as conquerors or remain prisoners of fear? The answer lingered on the horizon, as the dawn of destiny approached. As the sun rose further, casting golden rays upon the encamped tribes, Caleb and Joshua stood, their spirits ignited by the fervent prayers of their people. Yet, amidst the rising hope, a deep stirring of unease lurked in some hearts. The collective breath of the Israelites was but a prelude to the murmurs of uncertainty, a discordant symphony echoing through the throng. Let us not forget, one among them cried, his voice piercing through the air like a sharp arrow. We have seen the giants. Even now, they loom in our minds, casting shadows upon the very promises we seek. His words sliced through the atmosphere, and a wave of apprehension surged through the crowd. Caleb, unyielding in his faith, stepped firmly forward, arms upheld. Fear not, for our God fights for us. The giants are but bread for us, for the Lord has promised us victory. Yet, the whispering questions lingered, drawing strength from the darkness of doubt. How can we triumph over fortified cities? How can we conquer when we are as grasshoppers in their sight? A storm of murmurs threatened to engulf the assembly, led by the leadership of the 10 spies who had returned with trembling hearts. Seeing this tide of fear, Joshua ascended to Caleb's side, his voice rising above the clamor. Brothers and sisters, it is not by our might, nor by our strength that we will possess the land. It is by the power of Yahweh who has brought us thus far. Are we to forget his hand that led us through the Red Sea? His spirit that surrounded us in the desert? As if drawing from an unseen reserve of courage, Caleb echoed Joshua's resilience. It is written, God is not a man, that he should lie, nor a son of man, that he should change his mind. He sought the eyes of his brethren, imploring them to grasp the truth buried deep amidst their fears. The land is ours. Our destiny is forged in faith, not in fear. Then, a profound silence enveloped them. Hearts began to shift as some in the crowd nodded in agreement, the flicker of faith igniting within their chests. Yet, a remnant lingered, still shackled by disbelief, their arms crossed with protective stubbornness. Beginning with the elders, voices of reason spoke, drawing strength from the past. If we falter now, we will only reinforce our imprisonment in this wilderness. Let us be wise. Let us at least send out a spy to scout the land, that our fears might be tempered with knowledge. And so, the people decided. 13 men would scout the land, one from each tribe, with Caleb and Joshua among them. As they prepared for this mission, Caleb dropped to his knees, praying fervently, "O Lord, let every step we take in Canaan be guided by your hand, and may we see beyond our fears into the beauty of your promise. Reveal to us the truths that only you can show." Within their hearts, the longing for the promised land stirred like the wind rushing through the wilderness. They set forth towards Canaan, equipped with provisions but more importantly, armed with a zealous spirit of expectation. As they approached the city of Jericho, a sense of divine anticipation filled the air. But still, the question remained, what truths would they uncover? What unseen forces would stand against them? Thus, the Israelites ventured into the unknown, a sacred journey cloaked in divine assurance and human frailty. Awaiting their return, the others trembled with both hope and dread. What would these 12 men report? And as the sun began to set over the distant hills of Canaan, a miraculous unfolding loomed just beyond their grasp, for within the heart of the land lay deeper mysteries of God's sovereign purpose, waiting to be revealed through trial and faith. What awaited them, and how would God's design, hidden in plain sight, forever alter the future of his chosen people? As the night draped its velvet cloak over the hills of Canaan, the 12 spies Caleb, Joshua, and the rest set off into the burgeoning unknown, steeling themselves for the task ahead. Their hearts were animated by fervent prayer, and as they crossed the threshold of the land promised to their forefathers, anticipation danced in the air. Each step echoed the footsteps of faith, binding them to the covenant made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As dawn approached, the men traversed the valley, their eyes absorbing the sights of Canaan. It was a land flowing with milk and honey, a promise made manifest among fields rich with grain and orchards bursting with fruit. "The abundance is beyond our dreams," Caleb whispered, awestruck by the beauty around him. "Surely, our God has prepared this for his people." Yet, as they ventured deeper, the echoes of doubt stirred within them like a fierce wind. Jericho's towering walls loomed ominously in the distance, rising like giants against the horizon. Fear surfaced in the hearts of some. "How shall we breach such fortifications?" one murmured, shuffling his feet upon the dust-laden earth. But Caleb, firm and resolute, turned to his fellows. "Did we not witness the parting of the Red Sea? Did our God not provide manna from heaven? Let us trample over these walls, for our God shall deliver." His confidence ignited embers of faith among the group, yet shadows of apprehension still lingered. The spies proceeded, scaling hills and valleys until they reached the outskirts of Jericho. From their elevated perch, they beheld the guarded gates and vast defenses that intimidated the faint-hearted. Scouting among the populace, they took heed of the people trembling within. Whispers of fear circulated, stories of their might and height dispelled among the Canaanites as they fortified themselves against the Israelites. Days passed as they traveled through the land, gathering fruit and knowledge. With each passing moment, they felt the weight of their commission. They were not merely observers, but the very emissaries of the covenant promise. They carried with them the destiny of their people. At last, they stopped at a secluded grove to rest. Caleb and Joshua, weighed down with the burden of their calling, sank into deep conversation as night descended. "What shall we report?" Joshua asked, concern shadowing his brow. "Shall we recount the beauty of the land or the strength of the cities? Will our voices carry faith or fear to our brethren?" Caleb gazed towards the expanse of Canaan, knowing the strength of the God they served surpassed the obstacles they saw. "Fear will mute the call of our God as promise," Caleb replied, determination bubbling in his heart. "We must speak of his faithfulness, for we do not fight in our strength but by his decree." The night turned toward dawn, and as the spies began their journey back, laden with fruits of the land, a cluster of grapes so large that 2 men bore it upon a pole, they were reminded of God's providential care. Still, an apprehensive tremor coursed through them as they neared their camp, for they knew the challenge that awaited. Upon their arrival, the crowd collectively held its breath. The hearts of the people teetered upon the precipice of hope and despair. As the 12 assembled, tensions swirled like a whirlwind, and silence engulfed the throng. Caleb stepped forward, lifting his voice, rich with conviction, "We have seen the land, and behold, it is indeed good. But let us not forget the promises of our God, he will fight for us." Yet as the crowd leaned in, mouths parted in astonishment, the unthinkable revelation came forth from the 10. "The land devours its inhabitants," they exclaimed, painting a harrowing portrait of what lay ahead. "We are as grasshoppers in their sight." As despair threatened to swell among the Israelites, Joshua and Caleb stood as pillars of grace. "Do not lose heart. For if the Lord delights in us, he will bring us into this land, and he will give it to us." Within the hearts of the people, the echo of fear wrestled with the call of faith. Battling against the tide of despair, Caleb's voice rose like thunder, "Do not fear the giants. They are bread for us. For the Lord is with us, he goes before us." And in that moment, beneath the weight of the spiritual struggle, a deeper truth began to unfold. For as the people's hearts grew heavy, the sovereign hand of God was already at work, weaving the tapestry of his greater plan, one that would bring forth deliverance not just from giants, but from their very own fears. As the murmurs spread, and night began to blanket the land, a new mystery loomed, waiting to be unveiled. What would their choice be? Would they seize the promise, or would fear lead them to forsake the covenant? The horizon of destiny shimmered ahead, calling them to step forth in faith, for the time of revelation approached. As the weight of the moment pressed upon the assembly, confusion and uncertainty clouded the air. The murmurs of the multitude grew louder as fear gripped their hearts, a tempest rising against the backdrop of Caleb and Joshua's fervent declarations. The cries of despair twisted together with dreams of promise, and the very essence of faith hung in the balance. "How can we go up against the mighty?" a voice trembled from the rear. "They are giants, and we are but weaklings." Discontent buzzed, like angry wasps, as the people's hearts fractured beneath the enormity of their doubts. The 10 spies, emboldened by fear, echoed the refrain of helplessness. "We will be crushed. Our children will become prey." Caleb and Joshua exchanged troubled glances, fervent resolve igniting once more within their souls. "Silence!" Caleb shouted, his voice ringing with authority, cutting through the chaos. "Do you not remember the hand of God that has led us through every peril? He has brought us from bondage, and he will not abandon us now." But the whispers continued to swirl, an unholy cadence magnifying the threats before them. It was then that Joshua spoke, calm yet firm. "Let your hearts not be troubled. Our God is greater than any enemy. He goes before us, and his favor is upon us." A flicker of hope ignited among some of the listeners, yet it seemed drowned by the tide of fear. Then, a woman from the crowd, her face lined with worry, stepped forward, eyes wide with earnestness. "What of the promise given to our forefathers? Can we truly trust, or is this but a cruel jest?" Caleb looked upon her, his heart swelling with compassion. "This land is ours, and God has given it to us. Shall we dare to let fear uproot us from his promise?" His words hung heavy like dew upon the morning grass, and the crowd began to shift uneasily, the weight of their collective decision pressing down upon each heart. "Shall we cast away his gifts for the weight of our fear?" Caleb implored, his voice trembling beneath the solemnity of his words. "Remember how he split the raging sea, and how the bitter waters turned sweet. If we stand firm in our faith, we shall witness his power." The sun was rising slowly, casting golden rays over the assembled people, as the first glimmers of confidence began to pierce through the clouds of despair. Caleb and Joshua shared surreptitious glances, sensing an awakening spark within the hearts of their people, but alas, even as hope flickered, the 10 spies, their hearts hardened against the promised land, steeled themselves in protest. "We are not able. Our strength will fail us. The giants shall crush us." Desperation clawed at their hearts like ravenous wolves. At that moment, amidst the chaos, the breeze rustled the leaves, bringing with it a sacred silence, as if the very heavens were pausing to witness this pivotal moment. The people, divided between fear and faith, held their breath as the weight of the cosmos converged upon their choices. "Brothers, do not let fear bind you," Joshua shouted, his voice rising with divine fervor. "For it is written, 'The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?'" The answer is clear. The hand of the Almighty is upon us, and He will lead us into victory. And so the tide began to wane, more hearts turned toward the gentle whisper of faith. Caleb's eyes shone, for he sensed the stirrings of courage as the light of dawn broke brilliantly across the horizon. The faith of a remnant began to rise, intertwined with the covenant promise that had been woven through centuries, yet unbeknownst to them, deep within the fabric of this unfolding narrative lay a divine mystery awaiting its revelation. How would their choice illuminate God's glorious plan, not just for them, but for generations yet unborn? For beyond the horizon of fear, the tapestry of God's sovereign design stretched out an uncharted path that held a destiny far beyond their understandings. Would they be willing to step into the fray to seize the blessing, or would they falter? The ground beneath them thrummed with the heartbeat of promise, waiting for the Israelites to grasp the depth of their calling, for a divine act was poised to unfurl. The very fabric of their history trembled, ready for transformation. As stillness enveloped the assembly, hearts trembled between belief and fear. At the forefront, Caleb and Joshua stood resolute, knowing that their words could carry the weight of the covenant promise. Caleb raised his arms, imploring, "People of Israel, the Lord is with us. Fear not, for He has promised this land to us. Remember His covenant, for it is unbreakable." The murmurs of discontent began to wane, yet the shadow of doubt lingered. Joshua joined in, fervently declaring, "The land is indeed good. A land flowing with milk and honey. Let not our eyes be clouded by the giants of this earth, for with our God, we shall be victorious." Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted as some in the crowd began to stir. Their minds recalled the wonders of the Lord, the plagues in Egypt, the parting of the sea, and the sweet manna from heaven. "What if indeed the Almighty walks before us?" they whispered. But even these hushed thoughts were soon drowned by the fearful voices, "They are too powerful. How can we stand against such might?" Caleb turned to those who would listen. "Do you not recall how the Lord has fought for us? How He has delivered His people time and again? Will you turn your back on His promise, written in the very fabric of our journey?" Emboldened by Caleb's faith, the remnant began to rally, their voices collective, weaving threads of courage amidst the doubt. "Let us trust in the Lord. He shall fight our battles," they cried. Yet, the 10 spies eyed this rising faith with disdain and dread. "Fools! You heed their words. We are but grasshoppers in their sight," one of the spies spat, spreading his hands dramatically as if to ensnare the hearts of the people once more. "They will crush us like insects beneath their feet." It was then that the heavens seemed to respond, for a rush of wind swept through the valley, and the clouds momentarily cleared, revealing the soft golden light of dawn bathing the land. The vision before them, the promise waiting, a land blooming with life and prosperity, beckoned them forward. Joshua stepped closer, urgency palpable in his voice. "Remember. The land was promised to our forefathers. Our God has sworn that it is ours, and with Him, nothing is impossible." He looked passionately at his brethren. "What is a giant compared to our Creator? What are their weapons against His will?" As if sensing the trembling of their determination, a hush fell over the crowd. The spirit of confusion began to flicker like candlelight amidst the drawn curtains of night. Faith, kindled by sincerity, confronted the behemoths of fear. Caleb urged them on, "Let us rise in unity. One vision. One heart. We are the chosen of the Lord. Do not let fear hold you captive. For in our unity lies his power. In that moment, a great shudder passed through the people. A flicker of divine light illuminated the path laid out before them, but a question still loomed heavy in the atmosphere: would they step forward into the unknown, or remain shackled to their doubt? An elder among them, wise with years, stepped forth, his voice low but firm. What if we are destined to falter? What if our hearts betray us? Is it not better to remain where we are, comfortable in the familiar? At this, the hearts of many wavered once more, and it became all too clear this choice stood on the precipice of their history. But Caleb, sensing the battle of wills, called out, "The Lord does not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind." Shall we squander his promise? The ground beneath them trembled as the assembly held their breath, teetering on the edge of divine choice. As the sun illuminated the horizon, an unseen hand began to weave the tapestry of their fate, one that echoed through generations, intertwining their legacy with the very essence of promise and redemption. For this moment posed a divine query never forgotten: would they trust the promise of God, stepping boldly into his marvelous plan, or would they, for fear of giants, remain in the wilderness of their own making? The pulse of destiny throbbed in their midst, asking whether they would engage with the unknown rather than with the illusion of safety. And so the tale unfurled, a beckoning whisper echoing through the ages, as the unfolding of God's sovereign plan began to reveal itself, a revelation that would forever alter the course of his people's history. And it came to pass that the murmurs of uncertainty grew quieter, yet a thin veil of dread still lingered. Caleb, undeterred, pressed onward. Is it not the Lord who fights our battles? Have you not seen his hand at work? Look upon the fire by night and the cloud by day, he has gone before us. As he spoke, the voices of the people began to rise, their hearts ignited with hope. Yet fear, a shadow cloaked in doubt, loomed still. A mighty surge of emotion rippled through the assembly, as they wrestled with conviction and despair. Some voices rose again, faltering, now questioning their faith. What if he turns from us? What if the giants are too strong? Upon hearing this, Joshua cried out, his voice echoing like thunder, "My brethren! Could we ever doubt him who split the sea? He has not led us into this wilderness to abandon us, but to teach us to trust. The promised land is not merely a dream, it is our destiny." And in that moment, the Spirit of the Lord stirred among the congregation, easing the fears of many, as the memory of past victories, the plagues upon Egypt, and the miraculous bread from heaven coursed through their minds. They began to remember who they were, a people called by his name, beloved and chosen. Yet still, the 10 spies seethed with venomous doubt. "Do not be deceived," they cried out, voices dripping with malice. "There are giants in the land. Their cities are fortified, and their hearts are like stone. Surely, we would be crushed. Better to return to our bondage than face certain death." But the fire within Caleb and Joshua blazed brighter amidst this doubt. Shall we trade our freedom for fear? Let us not take counsel from our fears but from our faith. With God, all things are possible. Caleb proclaimed, his voice unyielding. Then, silence fell across the assembly, heavy like the weight of the world, as many wrestled within themselves. What would they choose? Would they allow fear to dictate their path, or would they emerge as warriors, united under the banner of their Creator? Suddenly, the presence of the Lord enveloped them, tangible, swelling like the tide, calling them to a higher purpose. The heavens thundered, as if the Almighty was awaiting their declaration. "Let us choose life," Joshua affirmed, his gaze sweeping across the crowd, eyes piercing as he continued, "Let us enter and possess the land. Let us not turn back in cowardice, for what is impossible with man is possible with our God. Trust in him. He is our fortress and our deliverance." At this powerful declaration, a collective breath was held, suspended between fear and faith as they searched their hearts. Caleb stepped forward, eyes shimmering with the light of conviction. Now is the time to step forth. We must not delay. The land is ripe for the harvest. As they stood at the edge of the unknown, the collective pulse of their hearts quickened, their spirits yearned for the promise, yet the unseen trepidation remained. In this choosing, they were poised at the threshold of their legacy, and it was then that an ethereal sound arose, a voice like a gentle breeze carried through the assembly. A choice must be made. Will you trust in my sovereign plan? Unbeknownst to them, heaven watched intently, for the decision of this moment would echo through the ages, weaving the fabric of destiny long foretold, revealing a plan entwined in the great narrative of deliverance and hope. For Scripture had whispered, when the time is right, a remnant will arise, and the promise will unfold, fulfilling the covenant made with your forefathers. What awaited them was unseen, yet promised in the heart of their God. And it came to pass that as silence gripped the assembly, a deep stirring arose within the hearts of the people. The clouds of doubt began to part, revealing the flickering light of faith. They contemplated the words of Caleb and Joshua, who had called them to a fierce remembrance of God's might and unfailing promises. Amidst the throng, a hush descended, and then a voice rang out, that of a young woman named Miriam, sister to Aaron and Moses. "My friends," she proclaimed, her countenance radiant, "do you not recall the songs we sang at the deliverance from Egypt? Shall we allow fear to silence our joy? The Lord has not only led us out, He leads us to something great." Her words, like drops of rain upon parched ground, nourished the roots of courage within the assembly. The murmurs of fear began to wane, replaced by a rising tide of boldness. The people looked upon one another, their eyes glistening with the echo of hope's anthem. Yet, shadows still lingered where hearts were reluctant. Then, in the thickening air, the 10 spies held tight to their fear, still pressing their lament. "Do not rush into folly," they shouted. "The land devours its inhabitants, and we are as grasshoppers in their sight. Better were we to remain where the Lord has brought us, than to perish in the hands of giants." But Caleb, his spirit ignited by the presence of the Lord, stepped forth boldly once more. "For every giant stands a testimony of our God who silences the roar of the enemy. Did He not promise us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey? What are the giants to the Almighty?" With a shattering clarity, Caleb lifted his eyes to the heavens and prayed aloud. "O Lord, give us strength. Fill our hearts with your courage. We are but dust, yet are gathered together under your wings. Let our faith rise like incense before you, fragrant and full of trust." At this, the ground trembled gently beneath their feet, and the heavens seemed to shift, as if attuned to Caleb's plea. A presence enveloped the assembly, as though the very hand of the Almighty was resting upon them, beckoning them to rise above their fears. In that holy moment, Joshua, emboldened, took the hands of those nearest him and called out, "Let us reckon our God with every step. What if we fall? For He who goes before us will lift us. What is the promise if we do not pursue it? The covenant cannot be fulfilled in hesitation, but only in our obedience." As his voice resonated like a trumpet, a crescendo of resolve washed over the people, igniting their hearts with fervor. Shouting in unity, they proclaimed, "We will go. We will seize the land set before us. By His strength, we shall overcome." And suddenly, from the depths of the crowd emerged a priest, a man of God, filled with divine unction. "Oh, hear this!" he thundered. "The Lord speaks through His prophets and through His people. The time has come for the fulfillment of His promise. The valleys of despair shall blossom with hope, and in this land, His glory shall be revealed." The assembly trembled, buoyed by the revelation of what lay ahead. Excitement broke forth as they began to move, a nation of warriors, united under the banner of faith. In that moment, they resolved to trust in the unseen hand guiding them, yet amidst the fervor, the voice of the Lord echoed softly, "But behold, the true trial lies ahead, for faith without deeds is dead. What shall you face in the land that I have promised you?" Thus, the chosen people stood at the precipice of their destiny, their hearts tethered to the will of the Almighty. In their resolve, they began to march forward, unaware of the trials that awaited them but certain of the promise that propelled them. The promise was anchored deeply in the heart of the covenant, and in what would come, a greater revelation beckoned, for there within the land lay the truth, hidden and entwined in the fabric of their journey, a promise yet to unfold, whispered through the ages, awaiting the day when a remnant would rise and with it, the fullness of God's sovereign plan would break forth in glory. And it came to pass that as the people of Israel set forth, they journeyed beneath the great expanse of the heavens, their hearts inflamed by the fire of faith. The sun shone brightly upon them, a testimony to the light of God's presence leading them to their promised inheritance. As they marched, the words of Moses echoed in their ears, a reminder of the Lord's mighty hand that had brought them forth. When you enter the land, remember to proclaim to the hills and valleys the goodness of the Lord, that each corner shall testify of his salvation. Yet the path ahead was not without trials. For, as they crossed the threshold of the wilderness, they encountered the first challenges that would test their resolve. An expanse of rugged terrain lay before them, steep and treacherous. Their hearts quaked, recalling the words of the spies who had proclaimed the might of their adversaries. Then, a voice emerged, that of Caleb, standing firm among them. "Fear not. The mountains may loom, but our God is greater. Let us climb these heights, for the promise is ours if we but take hold of it. Did he not say, 'Fear not, for I have redeemed you'?" Inspired, the people pressed forward, their faith igniting like dry tinder in a spark. They began to share their fears and dreams, intermingling their concerns with prayer and hope. Miriam sang a song of exaltation, and her voice lifted the spirits of those weary from the journey. "Sing praises to the Lord. For he is good. His mercy endures forever." The joyous proclamation rippled through the crowd, resonating with the truth that was both balm and sword. The assembly, now united in voice, ascended the steep paths, their hearts steadfast, fortified by the remembrance of God's past faithfulness. As they reached a high place overlooking the valleys below, Joshua spoke. "See how the land stretches out before us, a bountiful harvest awaits. The giants before us are but shadows to remind us of the mighty hand we follow. Let us not forget his wonders." Then, suddenly, two men approached from the shadows of the grove, clad in the garments of those who wandered through the land. They brought word of their fellow man and of the battles fought for the possessors of promise. "There are giants," indeed, one spoke with a humble yet firm tone, "but the Lord has stirred a remnant to arise against them. They too seek the glory that shall be revealed, for the land is destined for his people." The heart of the crowd quickened, for they sensed the divine orchestration surrounding them. They began to ponder what lay beyond their sight, the hidden blessings woven into the very fabric of their trials. The atmosphere thickened with expectation, and the pulse of possibility quickened within their souls. What if, someone mused, the giants are but a test of our faith, an invitation to witness God's deliverance? In that moment, the Lord spoke once more, his voice soft yet powerful, "This is but the beginning. You shall face what lies ahead, but remember that none shall overcome you while you walk in my ways. Look further, beyond the giants you see." With each word, a deeper mystery unfolded, a revelation that beckoned their understanding. For beneath the surface of their immediate trials lay a journey of transformation, a covenant unfolding into the present and future of his plan. And as the sun dipped low in the sky, bathing the land in hues of gold and crimson, the people gathered their spirits, emboldened for the battles of faith ahead. For the Lord revealed a secret amidst their resolve, a whisper carrying through the winds, "Those who seek shall find, and those who knock shall have doors opened wide. Your pilgrimage holds wonders yet unseen, for I shall accompany you to reveal a greater glory." Thus, the tribes advanced into the land, their hearts ignited by hope and anticipation for the sovereign plan that awaited to be revealed. And it came to pass that as the Israelites stood poised upon the threshold of the land promised to their forefathers, a powerful wind swept through the congregation, carrying with it the whispers of hope that enveloped their hearts. The fragrance of the harvest danced in the air, mingling with the sound of prayer and praise as the people sought the favor of their God. Caleb, emboldened by the Spirit of the Lord that breathed upon them, raised his voice once more. "People of Israel, today we rise. Let not fear seal our fate, for the Lord fights for us. The giants before us are but fleeting shadows against the grandeur of him who leads us." His words rang out with a transcendent authority, resounding amongst the hills and valleys waiting to witness the unfolding of Israel's destiny, and Joshua, filled with fervent zeal, stepped alongside Caleb, exclaiming, "We have journeyed too far to turn back now. Remember the might of our God. He has parted the seas, silenced the storms, and sweetened the bitter waters for us. Shall we cower before the foe, or shall we rise as the warriors of faith he has called us to be? The air charged with conviction, and with every passing moment, the conviction of the doubters began to shift like grains of sand, yielding to the overwhelming tide of unwavering hope. Then came a chorus of voices among the assembly, rising higher and higher until they echoed through the mountains. We will go forth. We will claim the land. For our God shall be our strength. The fervor swelled, the hearts once laden with fear began to manifest as a chorus of warriors, ready to conquer the land bestowed upon them. As they descended from the high place, Caleb and Joshua led the charge, moving forward into the unknown with courage shimmering in their eyes. They approached Jericho, the walls towering ominously yet almost mundane now. With hearts united in purpose, they began to chant the sacred rhythms of faith, the echoes of their ancestors reverberating through their spirits. Before we step further, let us surround this city and call upon the Lord. Caleb called, his voice unwavering. They formed a circle around the fortified walls, holding each other's hands, a community bound not just by blood but by covenant and shared dreams. Great is our God who has promised us the land. Mighty is he, our fortress and shield. Let our faith be louder than fear. As they marched solemnly, day by day encircling the great city, the inhabitants trembled within their walls, sensing the presence of the Almighty upon his people. Each lap they took generated a symphony of faith echoing through the heavens, an answer to the silent prayers lifted unto God. And on the seventh day, when the dawn broke with divine anticipation, Caleb raised his arms wide toward the heavens, proclaiming, "Today we shall witness the glory of our God. With shouts of praise shall we fall upon our enemies." At that moment, as a single voice, the tribe exploded into praise, a cacophony of worship rising like incense, piercing the skies. The ground shook, and the unyielding walls of Jericho trembled beneath the power of their collective faith. As the last note rang out, the walls of Jericho crumbled, collapsing under the immense weight of the praises rising from the hearts of God's chosen people. The heavens opened, and the land spread forth its bounty as the Israelites surged into the city. The promise was not merely fulfilled, it was a covenant re-established through the acts of faith that echoed from mountains to valleys. The giants that once scattered them were now powerless, the barriers of fear reduced to rubble. And thus, God's hand of deliverance ushered them into a new season. Caleb and Joshua witnessed firsthand the fulfillment of what was long awaited, a people empowered, emboldened, redeemed. The tribes divided the land, their hearts singing in gratitude, each portion a reminder of God's mercy and steadfastness. In that sacred space, filled with worship and victory, they raised monuments of stone to remember his wondrous acts for generations to come. The tale of their journey would reverberate through time, inspiring the faithful to step into the promises God extends to his children, and among them, the realization dawned, the true giants lay not in the land of Canaan, but in the hearts that once held doubt. Yet fear had been shattered in the wake of their faith. Victory was theirs, and faith had triumphed over fear at the mighty hand of God. They celebrated, a new understanding enveloped the community. The call to bear witness of his goodness did not end here, it flowed forth like rivers of living water, empowering them to seek out others who longed for deliverance, promising hope to the weary, and declaring the faithfulness of the God who keeps his promises. And so the journey continued, as generations rose to lead, carrying forth the story that proclaimed, with God, nothing is impossible. Now is the moment to continue this journey of faith. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next powerful biblical stories that will transform your understanding of God's Word. Leave a like now to help spread God's truth through the algorithm, ensuring that his message reaches hearts longing for clarity and hope. Comment below with your own spiritual reflections on how this story has impacted your faith journey. Your insights are treasured. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's unwavering love and truth. Only true believers understand the urgency of connecting others to the promises of our God. Join us as we witness his mighty works unfold.